So now I want to talk about the topic of how can we identify someone in need of deliverance. I know when I first got interested in deliverance, that was like a huge question for me because again, I wanted to be available to God to minister deliverance. I wanted to be able to identify those kind of situations and scenarios, but I didn't know the first thing about how to even know if somebody was in need of deliverance. You know, you always think of the Hollywood scenarios where the person is foaming at the mouth and their head is, turning in a full rotation and they're levitating, but obviously it's not always going to be that kind of situation. So I want to talk a little bit about how do we know? How do we know if somebody needs deliverance? And that's a great question. I think there are some obvious things that we can kind of look for, and a lot of things we'll also stumble into. If somebody has major addiction, that's always going to be a little bit of a red flag. Not to say that that's always going to be the situation, but that's definitely a rock that we would want to flip over and see if there's anything underneath there. Let's see, if somebody has a health concern and you're ministering to that person and the pain either gets worse at the very moment that you start ministering to them, or if it starts to travel around their body, then yep, that's a pretty good indicator that there's a little bit something more going on there than just a normal health concern or a normal situation, because pain doesn't do that. Pain doesn't travel. Like for instance, when I was at the mall in the body piercing shop ministering to that girl with all the satanic tattoos, she had pain in her mouth and it traveled down to her knee. So that doesn't even make sense in the natural. Pain's not going to do that. So those are some obvious red flags and indicators that we're going to come across. Other times, as you're ministering to people, you'll see certain things happen. Sometimes their eyes will start twitching from side to side. I see that one happen a lot. If you're someone who understands your identity and you understand your authority, a lot of times when you're praying for people, have them look at you. I do it every single time. I shouldn't say never, but I almost never close my eyes when I'm ministering to people or when I'm praying for people. In fact, I'll almost always say to them, I want you to look at me and don't look away. And then I'll start praying for them or ministering to them. And in doing so, what you'll find a lot of times, if you've made yourself available to be someone who's willing to minister deliverance, what you'll find in those situations is that a lot of times people who have, a spirit, a demon, something that's tormenting them, will have a hard time looking at you. Now, not every time, but a lot of times you'll find that they'll keep looking to the side or looking away. They'll get fidgety, all kinds of different things like that. Melody, Sheila, you're welcome to also interject anything that you might have.
Well, if we're looking for other red flags, I would say one is a negative, bad behavior, or some might call it a habit. But if you're constantly getting angry about something, then that results in something, maybe even partaking of drugs or alcohol, or abusing someone, or being very abusive even with your words, that's a sign. If you're pushing people away and kind of being secluded, the devil likes to isolate people. If you're in depression all of the time, if you're sick all of the time, if you feel like there's strife all of the time, if there's like some sort of separation between you and other people, it can be as simple as just being so isolated from people. And the enemy, you've probably seen those nature films where the lion or something goes after the slowest or the sickest of the herd. If you get off to yourself, then he can mess with you more. So there's some safety in numbers. The Bible says that where two or more are gathered together, I am in the midst of them. or where two or more are gathered together and agree is touching, anything they ask in my name will be done. But when he can separate you and allow those walls around you to kind of cave in around you, that's also a bad behavior. So I would look at behaviors that are continually happening over and over again, patterns that are negative, not only to your life, but to the lives around you, and affect you in a negative way. That could be a red flag that there's something there that most people wouldn't typically look at as some sort of opportunistic demon, but it can happen that way.